Okay, cool. Thank you for coming over. We just had a lot of fun. We went to the beach. Yeah. That was really funny to watch you roll in the sand and get straight to the point. I was a little confused at first, but when you yelled tactical roll, I was like, all right, this dude's, he's just trying to get it done. Let's get it done. And it turned out really good.
Most people don't see that side of me, so.
No, but they can now. Roll clip.
What roll?
The thing of you doing it. The biggest reason I wanted to have you over was because I felt like there was more to this song than even I know. Like, as of right now, to me, it's a cool song. And I play it in the car. I play it for friends and family. They're like, oh, that's awesome. You know, Steven has a great voice. And then they might be like, what's it about? You know, every now and then. And I'm kind of like, well, you know, it's about, like, temptation. But sure. That could be scratching the surface. You know, I literally have no earthly idea what that is. Do you want to unpack a little bit about maybe what caused you to write the song or what inspired you to write the song?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sirens is, on the surface level, it is this idea of temptation and how temptation can be one of those things where the deeper you are in temptation, or, you know, the steeper that temptation might be, it almost can appear to be beautiful. I believe that, you know, temptation is one of those things that when people think the word temptation or think the word sin, they think of something ugly and something that is, you know, not only frowned upon, but, you know, as a Christian, you shun that away.
Right.
But, you know, we also know that the Bible tells us that Satan was Lucifer, which was the most beautiful angel that God had created. And, you know, it references the idea that Lucifer was even the leader of, you know, worship and music in heaven when he was there. And so I think that I think that there's a misconception of what sin actually looks like to people, because the taboo things and the sinful things that people are a part of, it's because of things that they want to do. Therefore, it is attractive to them, and it can be as a siren. You know, it can lead you astray, and you almost get this idea of vertigo. Which way is the right way at this point? I'm also a big nerd, and like I go down rabbit holes really, really badly, and Greek mythology has always been something that interests me. And the siren, the idea of siren, was actually first introduced by Homer from the book or the epic poem, The Odyssey. And that was the first time that siren was ever referenced.
Right.
And I think that there's a reason that Homer doesn't describe them. So a lot of people, when they think siren, they think, you know, the beautiful woman that, you know, has, you know, a serpent or a monster's tail that sits at the ocean, you know, and that's what they picture. And that was a lot of later down the road, that was kind of how it developed in mythology and lore. But Homer doesn't describe what it looks like, and I think there's a reason for that. So that's kind of the surface level of it. Now for me, personally, it's a moment I'll never forget. I've written probably hundreds of songs, and the majority of them are cheesy as all get out. Like, they are like my first song I ever wrote by myself was I was in eighth or ninth grade, and it is the cheesiest song on the planet, and I wrote it for my girlfriend, who's now my wife, so it works. Nice. It's fine. But this song was one where I was at my lowest point that I have been in my adult life. I've seen a lot of darkness in my life, and I've experienced a lot of darkness in my life, and a lot of things. And, you know, in doing that, I found myself in a place where nothing was satisfying, and, you know, my relationship with my wife suffered greatly, and I was blaming her for a lot of things. And, you know, I began to think, you know, based on my experiences, based on what I do on a day-to-day, I started to have this concept or this idea that I deserve happiness, and happiness is a feeling. And if I'm not happy here, maybe I would be happy somewhere else. And I started to develop this thought, and it was, in essence, it was a temptation of you're not happy here, but you could be happy.
Yeah.
And I started looking at it, and the more I thought about it, and the more I went into that direction, the more I was like, yeah, I should be happy. Not many people out there are gonna know, but I'm a cop. I'm a police officer. It's my occupation, and I identify as such. And I've done all kinds of cup of coffee, crazy things, and shout out to Hawaiians out there. Yeah. But I've done things done undercover work, and I've arrested people, but I've done all these things, and I put my life on the line on a regular basis, and so I think I should be happy. If tomorrow could be my last day, then I should be happy right now. And so I started looking at that, and I remember being home by myself and just yeah, it's true.
You all right, Sam?
It was the G.
Yeah.
Shout out. Oh yeah, man, you gotta hit the
There you
cheese.
go.
I don't know if I can do it right now. Shout out. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, that's pretty
I
good.
still got it. Hey, how's it? Oh man. Anyway.
You making fun of my cheek? Come on, girl.
No,
Easy.
she went from being cold to being hot.
Yeah.
She wanted the blanket. Now she's like, man, I'm
Yeah,
laughing.
she's like, I'm
embarrassed.
dying now.
Yeah.
Shout out to the camera girl.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, but I started looking at this and going, what is it that I'm looking? Which one is the right way? Is this the right way? Is the way to like being happy? Maybe I could focus on the Lord more. Maybe I could put my time and effort into being more productive and more positive. Maybe I could have something to come home to that I could trust to open up to. Because at this point, right as I was sitting down to write the song, when I was sitting down to write it, I was shut off to everyone. Like I didn't have friends. I didn't have someone that I confided in. I didn't confide in my wife. And like sentences between us, if she asked me how my day was going, my literal answer would just be fine.
Yeah.
And that would be it.
Sure,
I was not pouring into her.
Yeah.
And so it was, I sat down, and the thing is during that whole time, that I was going down this very dark path, and I was finding myself being the very darkness that I was like surrounded by on a regular basis. I had people, including my wife, telling me, like, you're going down a direction that you, one, don't want to go down, and two, you're going to find a place where you can't come back from. Like, you need to pump the brakes, and I just ignored it. And in fact, I embraced it. I came to a point where I was embracing this darkness because it was in me for so long that I thought, if this is me, then I'm going to be
You're
this.
seeing it every day, too, in your occupation, which, only brings you around to that question again of, like, maybe the temptation that I'm facing does have some truth to it. Maybe it would be better to lean more towards this temptation side, which is definitely something that
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I could empathize and be like, if I was in your shoes doing that, I could probably see why it would be a temptation too, of just like when you get clouded by something so much so fast all the time, you really do lose common sense sometimes with like if your wife comes in and says, "Hey, just letting you know," and you're just like,
yeah. Oh yeah, and the Bible talks about especially like in Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, like the differences between wisdom and foolishness, and ironically, like Solomon uses a woman, as the personification of wisdom and foolishness, right, or folly, and so I I remember hearing those things from my wife and from, you know, anybody who was like very close to me that knew me deeply. And that's where the first line comes in. You know, no words, no sound. You know, like I blotted all that out. Like I just shut it out. I wasn't listening, and I didn't want to listen. And I even tried to justify it. You know, like I'm in darkness, and therefore, you know, I have to. And you know, there was a movie. I'm a big movie buff too. There was a movie where there was a line that says, you know, there's two types of people in the world. There's sheep, and then there's wolves. All right. And, you know, the sheep, to protect the sheep, you know, you have to take out the wolf, and it takes a wolf to catch a wolf, was the line. And, you know, I was like, okay, well, I'm in this world. So therefore, it was a cop movie. So I was like, I'm in this world. So I have to be a wolf to catch a wolf. So I'm going to go down this road. I remember sitting in front of a piano, very poorly tuned piano. And, I hadn't written music in a long time. It had been a really long time since I really sat down and wrote something. And that first line, no words, no sound, just immediately came to me. And, you know, it just evolved, you know, just the thought of you in my head, like the thought of, like, it doesn't have to be a person. It didn't have to be a woman. It didn't have to be anything like that. It was this temptation of, like, being happy. And again, going back to happiness being a feeling, I reference that because, you know, that's what I was seeking, was this feeling. So I write it, and it keeps evolving, and I start to see the vertigo of, you know, what is right and what is wrong. And, you know, and especially in today's society, like, you know, talking about like your truth, follow your heart. You know, what do you feel? Like these things are things that sound good. They don't sound bad, you know, but they're not truth. They're not real truth. They're not factual.
Sure.
You know, that's all subjective. And I was so deep in it. I was like, I don't know which one is which I think a lot of society is in now. Like, what is my truth? You know, and like, you know, and even it's in the Bible, like, which I think is obvious. Like, it's obvious now, but like in the Bible, you know, like Pontius Pilate looks at Jesus and is like, what is truth? You know, and I think that it's very interesting that is in the Bible, because that's a question that people are asking now.
Yeah.
So anyway, I write the first verse, and then the pre-chorus came pretty naturally because, you know, just when I think I'm able to walk away from this idea of like, you know, like happiness, that's a feeling, that's an emotion, that's not life. Like I can't live off of emotion. Like that siren, that voice that I can hear in my head, I hear it calling me, you know, and I hear the voice in the silence. So after shutting everything else out, that's the one thing I'm hearing, and it causes me to run back to it. And so that's where the song came from, was this like lowest of lows, just completely in darkness and chasing, you know, a fictitious truth.
Right. Happiness.
Right. Which
the idea of you would be happier.
Exactly. Versus, you know, choosing joy.
Yeah.
And
because choosing joy isn't always like the easy road. I think the easier of the two roads in that time would have been probably the temptation one.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a part of temptation. Temptation is one of those things that is usually the easier route to take. In fact, you know, James 1:2, consider it pure joy, my brothers, when facing trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance.
Right.
I think that that's huge, because consider it pure joy that you're going through the worst possible situation. Like at that time, they were, you know, Christians were being persecuted and horribly, like not like America's quote unquote persecution of Christianity, because, you know, that's that's not, you know, you don't like me, like, okay.
Not as they say in the Bible, to the point of blood.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Like, you don't like me, my feelings are hurt.
Right.
Like, you know,
we're talking like real deal imprisonment, you know, beatings, stonings.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That's at the top of the list and it gets deeper.
Peter being crucified, but he's like, you know, he's finding joy in that, and but he's like, I'm not gonna allow you to crucify me the way that my Savior was crucified, and he, you know, takes on the crucifix upside down. Like, that's true persecution, and yet James and other apostles, you know, are making a call to, you know, find joy in that. Peter multiple times talks about finding joy in that, or, you know, Paul himself is constantly talking about how, you know, like, he is finding joy in this, you know, like, he is being content with this. Like, those are real things. Yeah. And you know, and I'd only written half the song, you know, when we started discussing working on it, and when we sat here together, you know, like, I think that our creativity and our minds, I think that they operate pretty similarly. And we saw that this was telling a story.
Totally.
And so the second half of the song is, so if you have the first half of the song, which it sounds almost confusing.
Right. You wouldn't really know exactly what the song is about if you just listen to the first half.
Right. If you listen to the first half,
it's something that he's struggling with.
Right. It's confusing. Like, who is he talking to in this situation? Who is, you know, who is the
just
siren?
Just thought of you.
Right.
Okay, who is you? You know,
right.
Is that a person or is that a thing?
Yeah, who's the siren? Which one of this situation is the siren? Even if you were able to put yourself in the song, like, you're asking yourself, who's the siren? Like, is this one or is this one? Right. The second half of the song finishes the story and is like, I know what the siren is now, and now I have to make a choice.
Yeah. And
as we finished writing it, and then we continued creating it and came to the end, I remember sitting there going, like, how are we going to finish this? Like, where's the end?
Right.
And the ending to me is probably the most haunting part of the entire song. And I think it's because I personally want the person listening to hear it and go, I have to make a choice.
Right.
That's up to you. How this song ends,
totally.
Like those
kind of leaves it in the hand of the listener, especially the way you sing the last part. How you go, are you a siren? It's almost a question, and then the whole beat rolls and fades and flips on itself, and it just open air. That's the last question that you leave the listener.
Absolutely.
Is, are you a siren? So then it puts it in their hand.
Absolutely. Like, you
know?
that.
And then ask that question.
You have to ask this now, and you know.
Exactly.
And I think that you hit the nail on the head when we were making the song. We were listening to it, and you were like, man, this is a mature song, you know. And that was a great word for it in my mind.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
I could tell there was something to the lyrics that you had already written. I was like, it's as if you had handed me a big present and it was beautifully wrapped, and I'm like, I don't know what's in here, but it's something expensive. Like, you can tell by shaking sometimes, you know, when you get like Christmas stuff. And that's what I felt. I was like, this is a beautiful, really nice gift. I want to, you know, take care of it, but the deeper meaning of this is very important, and it's been really fun, you know, to find that out. Like, today we did the canvas, which I'll put up on the screen right now, and it's making me think that when I was asking you, like, hey, what else should we do with this? It was almost as if you weren't satisfied with just leaving it an untold story. Like, just leaving it you laying on there. Like, it was almost as if we needed to have that last scene of the eye with the light in it, making a decision, like, moving forward. It's almost as if that last scene tells the listener the direction that you kind of chose, which is the light direction. I don't know. I'm guessing it's probably going to be like the better of the two. But that's what I felt today. I was like, something about this is, you know, when you come to a path with two decisions, it's going to be hard to not choose the temptation one, but the correct decision is the one that, you know, hence the word light and the light in your eyes, which is the better of the two decisions. So the canvas, I think, too, is really important. And it's not just like throwing something up there. It's like everything about this song we're trying to, like, in Morse code, like, secret tell people you know, it's going to be your decision, but like this is what he chose.
Absolutely.
You know, maybe give them some hope through your story too.
Yeah, you know, and you know, to bring it full circle, I will say that, you know, I wrote this song and we worked on this, you know, together, and it was also a really healing time for me as well. You know, when I contacted you about like, okay, yeah, let's do this, you know, and we had talked about working together a few times, and it just kind of came down to, you know, I called you and said, or I saw you and I said, hey man, like if you're still interested, I'm willing. And you actually asked me, have you worked on anything? I was like, as a matter of fact, I have.
I've got a little book here with some cool lyrics in it.
Yeah, and you reached out to me after listening to it pretty much immediately, and I was like, that's the one.
And just so you know, you sent me 2 songs.
Mm-hmm.
The first one's great, but when I heard Siren, I was immediately like, I don't even want to listen to anything else. That's the song I want to work on. And sometimes you just know. And
it meant a lot to me that you know, you felt that way. But you know, I was in that healing. Like I came to the very cusp of wrecking my ship, for you know, the metaphor of this.
You were heading towards the siren.
Oh, I was
full speed ahead.
Looking at the siren. Like that siren was sitting right in front of me, and I was like, no, this ain't it.
What
you know?
What changed in your mind when you were looking at the siren? Was it
guiltless plug? I'm gonna throw out a guiltless plug. Levi Lusko. He's the lead pastor for a church in Montana, and I was up in Montana actually for work. I'm also in the reserves, so I was up in Montana for work, and a guy invited me to a church service, so I went, and the service. It's crazy because God immediately like was at work, and you know, it's hard to imagine such a mighty, powerful, big God being able to put his focus and attention on you as an individual. And I don't know how many people that sermon reached to, but I'm telling you, like, because what happened is they actually were having this like summer series of like guest speakers. Like the pastor was on a sabbatical, and so KB, who is a rapper, who's also he's a minister. He's a pastor.
Shout out HGA.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, dude, KB is one of my all times, man. Love that guy. If you're ever hearing this, bro. Thank you.
Shameless KB plug.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's a couple of plugs right now.
Any tribe.
Yeah.
While we're at it.
Yeah. But KB, he was supposed to come speak, and his flight, like I guess he flew into Minnesota, but then his flight got canceled in Minnesota the night before. And so the pastor was at some concert. It was something random that he said, but I know he was at a concert, and he gets a phone call from his staff like KB's not making it. Yeah. And so he has to frantically put together this sermon. And so I'm at this church, and it's actually like it's a satellite church. So he's up on this screen, and I'm watching the screen. I'm like, all right. Yeah. I don't even get to listen to KB now. Now I got to listen to this guy that I've never heard of, and apparently Levi Lusko is a pretty big name, and I didn't realize it at the time. But so he's standing up there and he's telling the story. I was like, man, that's pretty interesting. And then something in me, it was the Holy Spirit. By the time I was like, what's happening right now? All I could hear was, you need to listen up. You need to listen up. And he says, so I'm going to basically, he was like, I'm going to preach about marriage. And I was like, great. Yeah. This is fantastic. And he talks about the parable that Jesus tells about the woman with the missing coin, the 9 coins and missing one. And he discusses it, and then he talks about, he gives things for each of those 10 coins. And I'm not going to pretend like I can memorize every one of them. But every one of them hit me. Every point that he made hit me. And it was like, it was mind-blowing how God was at work in that moment. And I walked out of there so convicted, and I didn't even want to admit it at first. I was like, no way. Like, I was like, there's no way. It's not for me. It was for somebody else. Like, not for me. Like,
I wasn't the guy that was
I'm not-
supposed to hear this.
I'm not, this was
That dude
not
was 23-4 or F5.
Yeah,
Like you said.
he was actually at the real church over in like
Right.
Kalispell or wherever the actual church is. I was just watching a screen. Couldn't be for me, but it was definitely for me. And I had some friends point me in that direction, like open my eyes to it, and suddenly, like, I saw with a different lens. I saw clarity, and I remember getting home. It was a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday just after that Sunday, and I got home, and I was like looking at my family and looking at, my 5 kids and my wife, and seeing them through a different lens. And it was mind-blowing. And so when I say, like, I was right there, I was at my, and when I say right there, like, it by no means is a good way. It was like I was at my lowest point, and God took that, and he did a restoration in me that I can't explain outside of miracle, And I that's another thing that I want to make sure that, the shot you were talking about with the eye and the light in there is like, you might feel too far gone. You might feel too far gone. You might feel like that this is impossible. Like, I've already gone so far into this, I should just commit and try again another time. Or, whatever that battle is that you're having, and whatever your siren is, it is never too late with God.
That's good. It's true too.
And you might even go fully into crashing, because the ending to the siren thing is that the purpose was for shipwreck,
right,
and then be devoured.
Total destruction.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, they were calling you to the rocks, and your shipwrecks, and you're done. Like, that's what the mythology was the idea that these sirens, and it originally was 2 and then became more, and some of them had names in different Greek mythology stories, and it escalated into like sailors were telling these stories, because it's just mind-blowing, the concept of sirens. But the idea overall was that this voice was so captivating, so capturing, that you would go off course, which doesn't take much. If you've ever steered a ship, or a small boat, like a twin engine boat, or done any sailing whatsoever, it doesn't take much to go off course. It just takes a little nudge, and it'll change everything. And it would cause these sailors to go off course, and they would follow that voice, and by the time they realized that they were going to their doom, it was too late. And so it's also one of those things where I want to make sure that people understand that, like, there is no point when you're too late with God. That God can restore all things, and he can make things new. King David, a man after God's own heart, he has actually a few moments of weakness, according to the Bible, but the biggest one that everybody knows about is, Bathsheba, and how, he, takes her, and it all started with something small, a small off course, which was him staying home from war. Back then, kings were meant to go to war with their armies. They were meant to go, but he decided to stay. And that small decision escalated to him getting up and going on his rooftop. And, if you look at where his kingdom was, he can see everything, but he knows exactly where he's looking, and, so he takes Bathsheba, but then he doesn't stop there. Then he has to, take it another step further, and has her husband killed in battle. So he committed murder, whether you want to say directly or indirectly. He caused it to happen by having his armies back off and making him stand in the front line. He did all of these things, and, he tried to do it in secret. Well, God calls him out on it, but he doesn't stop loving him.
Right.
And he shows him mercy and shows him grace. And even though it's hard to read that whole thing that happens to David afterwards, you know, that little ripple caused this giant tidal wave of just tragedy, in essence, you know. And Psalm 51, you know, the response of David was very much a humbling and, you know, coming to God in humility and saying, like, you know, hide your face from me, like, blah, you know, knowing what he did was wrong, but not making an excuse for it, but owning up to it. And, you know, ultimately God did restore David down the line. You know, he kept his covenant with him. And I think that that's beautiful. And so, you know, if you're listening to the song and it is like you're hearing the deeper part of it, because first of all, like, the song just sounds cool. Like,
definitely is a cool vibe.
It is a vibe, 100%, and it is a vibe that I never would have expected, and I love it. I love the way.
What did you expect it to turn into?
I don't know, man.
Song?
Maybe, like, you know, like, I guess when I was, because I say I was tinkering with the song, but I really did sit down, like, I had a lot of thoughts, and it was very therapeutic for me to even start that song. But I guess I pictured like a Gavin DeGraw vibe. I don't know why. Maybe because it was on the piano. So when I came in and you played, I was like, oh my gosh, this is...
That's what happens when you team up with a trap producer.
Oh, dude.
I'll turn any piano into MIDI piano in a heartbeat.
But it was still, it's like the movement of it and how, like,
I can some orchestral in there too, you know.
Yeah, I can hear movements like a classical piece. There's movements to it. And I think that's beautiful. I'm getting off track. Because it sounds like such a cool song, and you just want to, like, nod your head to it and, like...
Well, in today's age, for sure, you have to appeal to who in this world is having trouble with sirens. Is it classical people who listen to classical music? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have. I'm sure they got some sirens. But let's be raw and honest. The more bass, the more hip-hop driven, okay, now you're going to reach a much larger group of people. And then demographically, across the whole United States, that type of music, something that has more of an 808 kick and a hi-hat and stuff like that, doesn't matter where you're from or how you grew up, is going to probably find itself in the hands of someone who, because I was that person too, and I was listening to that type of music, who's struggling with the siren. So that was the immediate first thought that I had was, okay, we need to put this into somebody's trunk who's got some subs. Mm-hmm. Because then, first of all, they can vibe with it. They can vibe check. But then second, they can actually ask themselves the question, you know, what's this guy saying? Mm-hmm. What is the song about? And then they can ask themselves the final question, what's my siren? Mm-hmm. You know, and that's, I think the song is definitely going to do that. It was always a vibe from the first, you know, we only spent an hour and a half on the beat.
Yeah.
That's how you know you were in the right direction the whole time.
Yeah. You know, and I mean, like, working with you it was very fluid. You know, I as I said before, I think that there's a lot of things that we, you know, instinctively, like, we had the similar ideas already kind of going.
Right.
But I also think that it's not a clash, it's literally a collaboration of
totally
two different backgrounds musically, and, you know, maybe spiritually, and, you know, how we have grown up and what we've become now as adults. I think that a part of that has allowed this to be this very, you know, beautiful surrender to this collaboration. And
totally.
You know, and ultimately you know, you mentioned, you know, music and like different types of music, and like what demographic are we reaching out to right now?
Right.
And I think that's something where, you know, I don't want to be that guy, but I'll be that guy, because I'm not afraid of confrontation.
Sure.
Partially, unfortunately, but who knows? But I mean, Christian music is necessary. You know, like, I believe 100% is very necessary. And I think from, you know, when I was growing up and I wasn't a Christian, but I did hear Christian music, to today, it has evolved dramatically. Yeah. You know, if you look at the old days of, like, Michael W. Smith, Stephen Curtis Chapman,
right,
and then you have this, you know, this movement of Chris Tomlin, who, you know, he really took words from the Bible and, put a melody to it. Because, you can read the Bible and not hear melody, you just read words. Mm-hmm. But he put melodies to, biblical scripture. And I think that's very neat. And especially in his early times with, the Austin Stone and, but then you have an evolution to, a band called Rivers and Robots, which is
super cool.
Oh, yeah.
Super different. Didn't even know they were Christian.
Oh, yeah. It's mind-blowing.
I heard them and I was like, okay, cool. Funk, jazzy, kind of just like atmospheric. I don't know, like I'll get a massage.
Yeah, ambient kind of.
Yeah, while I'm listening to this. Didn't know they were Christian.
Mixed with elevator, music, hit floor 4.
Take out all the lows.
Yeah. But, I think that there is something to be said, though, about specifically contemporary Christian music where they've put themselves in this box. Mm. And it's unfortunate because, if you walk into a church and they're playing worship, I would say 99% of the music that you're hearing during praise and worship is going to be, this very it might even sound somber, but it's this very uplifting, God, you are, sure. Everything, and you're under control, and everything. It's
almost like you could be blindfolded and hit it blindly with the dart just by guessing.
Right.
Because it's almost like that.
Right. Like the Jesus chords are gone. Like the whole idea of G, C, D or something like that. Like that's gone. Like there have been some really musically very beautiful, intricate music that's been made by Christian artists. But this concept of everything has to be uplifting, I think is it's almost a fallacy to me, because
sure.
I don't walk into church every Sunday and go, man, I'm doing great. Today's great.
Oh yeah, that's the same idea of let's say you had a compass and it was pointing north and you moved and it never moved. It was like, oh, I'm always this.
Right.
It's like, you're always happy? It's like, no, we sometimes can be in a different direction, but it can show us which way to go.
Exactly.
Just because we're sad doesn't mean we can't,
Again, joy is a choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can experience the emotion of sadness or mourning or anger, which is a secondary emotion, or, fear. You can experience those things and it's not wrong. God gave us those emotions, and I think that there's a reason. And Jesus went through those emotions. Jesus experienced sadness. The shortest verse in the Bible is Jesus wept. Mm-hmm. And there's different interpretations of why he was weeping, whether it was because, Lazarus, died and he had to let him die in order to bring him back. And others, have stated that it was because of the lack of faith that the people had in him. And whatever the reason may be, he experienced sadness. Mm-hmm. He experienced fear. He's praying, just before his crucifixion, hours before his crucifixion, he is praying, so intensely and so adamantly to the Lord, to God, the Father, hey, let this cup, if it may be, let this cup pass over me, sweating blood. I've been in
there's some science behind that
right.
we could dive into. What does it take to sweat blood?
Right. Yeah. And it's to me, I'm I have been in some really low places. I have never perspired blood before. I've never done it. So I can't imagine the fear and the anxiety that he was experiencing then. He experienced those things. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to talk about those things and to be open to talk about those things, and that's one of the reasons why I was, hesitantly but willing to even do this interview, because I think that it's one of those things where it's a somewhat known Christian rapper goes by the name of Lecrae. Yeah. He
That's a dad joke.
Yeah. I got 5, man. I'm good at them. I got them for days. But I remember he did an interview. I don't remember how long ago it was, but it was a minute. And I remember him saying, hold on a second. I'm not a Christian rapper. I'm a rapper who happens to be Christian.
Right.
And I think that that's big and that's bold. It's I don't have to be put in this box of being a Christian musician, Christian artist.
Right.
my goal as a Christian is to reach to the masses,
Right.
right? Paul literally like goes into places in the Bible and he's like trying to relate to them, which is why he talks about, you know, like soldiers when he's describing, you know, the full armor of God, or he uses analogies of sports, like in Corinthians, you know, Corinthians 9:24, you know, he's talking about, you know, running your race, and he's, you know, does he not run to win, you know, like, you know, run to win. And I think that's big because people of Corinth were super big into like Olympic game style things, and so he was relating to them. I don't know if Paul was like a, you know, a marathon runner or a sprinter or a boxer. I don't know if he was any of those things, but he could appreciate that and use it as an analogy.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, it's important for Christians to be able to say, like, you know, I love Jesus. I'm not okay right now.
Right.
You know, and that's why I was so excited about this song. Is like, I am a Christian and I have fallen very short.
Yeah, it kind of shows where Christians can go and are allowed to go, which is anywhere. You're human.
Right.
And I think it is important to know that, like, the expectations of people nowadays, if you are a Christian, it's like, just, you know, without even telling you where I am on the Christian scale, I could be, you know, a Christian that's just like understanding, just getting into it, milk, or, you know, solid food. But despite where I am on that, I will always have, you know, the possibility, due to free will, to end up in a place where I might consider something either a siren or not. I think a lot of people forget about that. A lot of people in today's culture cancel someone if they mess up. It's like, okay, so I'm like, do you want us to do that to you when you mess up? And they would say, well, no. It's like, well, we can't do that to other people. Like we have since the dawn of man. Like, that's the whole point, that why Jesus did what he did.
Yeah.
You know, if he could, let's say God, you know, he's showing him the whole big picture, and then Jesus comes in and he says, well, I have to do this. Or else, what else is there?
Yeah.
It's just going to spin the wheels, spin the tires, and eventually people, you know, say a lot of these things will happen. And yeah, I think just being like giving grace and understanding that, you know, we're not him, and I mean, super far from it. So when you see someone who doesn't look like you or act like you, or maybe doesn't dress like you or speak like you, maybe someone that's just different from you, having that grace of knowing that, like, hey, brother, are you, like, is there a siren in your life right now?
Yeah.
And they might be like, dude, you are the first person that's talked to me today. Everyone else is looking at their phones.
Yeah.
And yes, it's like, what should I do? I mean, they might even just open up to you and start talking because they need that. I mean, we don't really have too much of the open conversation nowadays, especially if you go to an airport. Airports used to be super different. I used to love airports. You could find so many people to talk to. You still can. But yeah, you can just see it nowadays with social media and cell phones. Like, there's a lot more, kind of like this 6-inch box right here. That's where all the communication goes. And I think a lot of people are taking this and they're not actually accepting the fact that they got real problems.
Yeah, I mean, well, Albert Einstein said, you know, that the fall of mankind will be when technology takes place or takes over human interaction, and I find that very interesting. You know,
kind of feels like it a little bit.
Yeah,
that's kind of happening today, or at least the early kind of rumbles of it.
Yeah, you know, and much like a lot of things, I think that, like, technology has. It's like, you know, the road to evil is paved with good intentions. I think that technology, like, in and of itself, was never meant to be something that, you know, was evil or a distraction. It was meant to, like, help and make things a little more simplistic.
Is a tool bad? No, it's a tool.
Right, but if I use a hammer, you know, to, like, I don't know, club somebody, like, it became evil.
Exactly.
You know,
yeah.
I'm not, like, building something, I'm destroying something.
Totally.
You know, and I was talking to a little girl at church the other day. I was teaching Sunday school, so there was a purpose to me to talk to her. So don't get weird. But when I was talking to her, she she said something like, I asked one of the, a little bit old, she was a little bit older, but I asked her, I was like, I see you got your headphones on, like, what were you listening to? And she said the song, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't know the song.
Sure.
And then a couple kids down from her said, "Oh, that's terrible." And I was like, I was kind of taken back, and I had to look at this little girl who, I don't know, she's 7 or 8 years old. And I said, "Why? Why is it terrible? Like, explain." And I was genuinely asking, because I was like, maybe she knows the song, because I'm like I'm not very hip. Like, I tell dad jokes, and I listen to my like 70s and 80s of yesteryear.
You got your playlist.
Oh yeah. And so I was like, "Tell me about it. Like, what is it?" And she was like, "Well, it doesn't say Jesus in it." And I went, "Hold on a second."
Yeah, hit the brakes.
Wait, I don't want to go too...
We were going to talk about Noah's Ark,
but now
we're switching gears.
Now we're going to read every psalm that has been written. No, but it did it.
That's your homework, kid.
Yeah, Psalms, all of them. The first thing you have to do is tell me how many there are. All right. But no, I looked at her and I was like, I think that there's a lot of music that doesn't say anything about Jesus.
Totally.
And I was like, I think that it would be irresponsible of us to ignore them just because it doesn't say something about Jesus, or doesn't talk about this, uplifting, like everything is wonderful, or the Lego song, like everything is awesome.
Right.
Like, not everything's awesome. And it's unfortunate we live in a fallen world, but we do. But we have hope in Christ.
Yeah.
And
I've actually had that prophesied over me one time. Someone came up to me and said, "Chase," they were like, "your music does not have to say the words Jesus in it." And I was like, "Okay, thanks for that." And then like years later, now that I like produce music and trying to actually, support my family financially,
mm-hmm.
I kind of understand it a little more, because to like appeal to the masses, sometimes it's better
Mm-hmm.
to not say the word Jesus. Just if you were to go into any street in America and you were to play a song just on piano, you would get more people than you would if you had a big sign that said, Jesus, and we're doing it. That's just how it works in 2023. So when I was thinking about that, I totally agree with you. If we are to only think that as Christians the word Jesus has to appear in every song, we're wrong.
And it's not even a word, it's a name, and it's an important name.
Totally.
But
I think he wants to use your creativity and your experiences to reach people. And that's why I wanted to work with you, because I can bring my best to the king, which is, music production. So that's my little flame. But when you put your flame, it just made a bigger flame, right? And this cool, fire with fire makes a bigger little thing of fire. And, what you brought, I didn't even know where it was coming from. I just knew it was special. But because I knew you personally, I knew you were a good dude, willing to work with you and stuff like that. Because I want to put out music that glorifies God.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to do it in a way that if you were to send it to somebody, they wouldn't really know that immediately. They'd be like, "Oh, this is cool. What's it about?" You know? And then they can go online and watch this video, and it's the explanation and everything like that. But that's kind of the way for me moving forward, is like, if Holy Spirit's living inside of you and you want to honor the King with all the things that you do, and if he gives you a song, man, put it out. Like, easy as that. You don't have to like submit it through all these chains. I mean, if you want to have counsel, sure, but you don't have to like submit it through and get all these other people's opinions, because God the Father's living in you and he gave you something so special. And a lot of times people want to take and mold it into something that they would like better.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that the originality, we got to preserve that, because no one else got to hear it. You came straight here and we cooked it. You know what I'm saying? You had the ingredients, we cooked it, we put it out. And what they get to hear is something super raw and super fresh.
Absolutely, and shout out to both your bride and mine, because, with your dreams and ambitions and everything, like, she's not standing behind you in that, she's standing
Totally.
Beside you, and so that's super cool. Shout She's here.
Y'all can't see her, but
I'll
she's
say she's here.
right there.
And that's that kind of support, you know, like it's
Totally.
what 10 o'clock now, and we thought we were going to do this for 7 minutes, and I think we've been doing this for half an hour, and she's just sitting along, you know. That's super cool, and it brings her along with you in that journey. But you know, as far as the song is concerned, I think it is, you know, it's not even a think, it's a for sure by far one of the coolest experiences I've ever had.
It's good to hear.
You know, I've been in studios when I was younger, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this out there now, because I guarantee you, if you know, when this song goes out and people listen to it, they're gonna see my name, you know, featuring Steven Lamonica, and they're gonna be like, "Oh man, I want to go check that out." And they're gonna go on YouTube and they're gonna look my name up. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this out.
Are there like a bunch of videos that we don't know about?
Bad. It's so bad. Like,
I gotta do a YouTube like rabbit hole on you. I had no idea.
You won't have to look far, brother. Like, all you gotta
I know
do.
what I'm doing this Friday
it's
night.
so bad, but yeah. So when you see that video, just you know, have some grace. I was 18 years old, and
I don't even know.
I won't even tell the story.
There's one out there.
It's really good. I just know it's coming out there, so I want to get on the front end of it.
Well, look, I've got those videos too, and my brother actually called me when I was in China. I woke up in Beijing, and he said, "Chase." Actually, no, he was with me in Beijing because we were getting on the bus, and I woke up, and he looked at me and goes, "Why do you have all of your bad music on the internet?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "It's just bad. Like, it cusses, like, you're like degrading women. Like, why do you have?" And this was like 4 years after I got saved, and I was like, "You're right. I don't. That's not who I am. I need to take that off." So I got online, and luckily for me, I could take it off. Nobody had duplicated it.
Oh gosh.
Nobody had downloaded it and like re-uploaded it on some website. So I totally feel that, man. Bad videos of yourself, of your younger self. I've been there.
It's bad. This is a different kind of bad. I couldn't take it down. It is probably one of the. Look, honestly, in 2023, I think it would probably make like a Vine, and it would like go viral. So if this goes viral, I'll know why now.
And you don't want me to provide a link to it in the bottom of this video?
Yo, I don't care. Go watch it. Like, for all I care. Like, yo, I've got nothing to hide at this point. It's so bad. I'll even tell you,
all these people watching are like, well, forget this video. Like,
That's why we saved it to the.
And then they
that's why we saved it for the 30 minutes later. If you watch
made
the whole
it this
video,
far, you deserve to watch whatever video he's talking about.
number one girl. There you go. Like, you can go look that up.
Is that the name of it?
That's the name.
Oh, is this the song you wrote for your wife?
No.
Oh.
No, this is
I thought that was gonna be that sweet.
This is all.
You're my number one girl.
Wait, yours is way better than mine.
Ooh, yeah.
Actually, the song could have been really good if the video wasn't so bad. I can't even, like, let me explain how bad the video is. I'm gonna give you a taste of it, okay? So, there's a green screen portion. Yet the green screen is still a green screen. Like,
it
didn't even bother to like try to do anything with it.
Dang.
It was so bad. And you know, like, there are people that have heard it and seen it, and like, they've said this. They said, you know, if I just put the phone down and don't watch the video,
song's not that bad.
Song's not that bad, but
funny.
I think the images are so ingrained in their brains. And again, I was 18, so I had like this really terrible peach fuzz here, and I'm playing with a dog, and I'm like trying to find my number one girl, and I look like Scooby-Doo and like in the gang, like trying to go in the, like, literally, like, you'll see me go in one door and come out a different one, and
dang, that was pretty creative for back then.
Well, that's a whole nother story. I won't even get into that. Just know that you'll get a laugh, brother. Like,
I can't wait. We could all use one every now and then.
Absolutely. So. But I will say, as far as this song, like, I spent time when I was 18 in the studio and did some cool things with cool artists, and this by far was the greatest musical experience and spiritual experience with music that I've ever had. And I'm very thankful to you for letting me be a part of the journey, and also to your bride. Thank you for letting me come hang out. And
I'll also say the same. It was super. I told her it was so easy to work with you. Like, even today when we went to go make the canvas, you just, like, we get there, there's literally no conversation. We're just walking out to the beach, and you're like, okay, so we need some wood, and he just like kicks over a palm tree, takes the palm tree to the water, and starts stabbing his shirt, rips it up. I'm just like, I gotta get some video. No one's gonna believe me if I don't actually like film this, because I didn't know what. And then he was just like, all right, tell me what to do. I was like, okay, so just lay on the thing. And we were done in 3 minutes, and that's what I like about you. You get to the point. You don't second guess yourself. I have so many people that come in here and they just don't know what they want. They're still trying to figure out the song. You came in here, chords were done, so you played them, put it into Ableton, changed it, and made it our own, and that was it. There was no more. Even with the lyrics, we were like, okay, I like it. It was like, oh, you don't want to change anything? It's like, no, I like it. Let's move on. It's like, sweet. So I had a great experience too. Working with you was real fast and easy. And this won't be the last song we make together for sure, because your voice is way too powerful. Super powerful voice. Very, very... Like, I had to, for all you, like, producers out there, I had to turn the gain on all my inputs all the way to 0. He was just blowing up the microphone. Like, the Avalon V5 was, like, at -60, and it was still getting close to 0. So he's got a strong voice, which is...
That's the Italian in me, man. I can't...
Really? It's cool, man. I really dug it, and...
Well, I think I also like, I mean... The reason why, like, I'd be like, yep, you know what, I like it, let's move on, is I think there are some things that if it's from the heart, like, if you think about it too much,
you'll miss the magic, yeah.
And then
totally,
there's other things where, like, I could sit on that and do different things forever and never be satisfied. And there comes a point when you got to be satisfied.
Totally.
But I just think it was, effortless, effortless in the sense of, like, I've got, the one thing I will ever say positive about myself, which I don't really say that very often, like, in truth, like, I have a really low self-esteem, but,
don't we all?
I think anybody who's honest with themselves, like, but, I like to work,
totally.
But I also like to have fun when I'm working. And I think that if you're doing something like this and you're not having fun while doing it, like, that's a shame, like, straight up.
It is, because this is, like, literally the most magical, fun thing you could ever do. It really is, in my opinion. That's just because I'm partial to it and I love it. And it's like, don't come into a studio and not just have the best time of your life. It's way too cool. All the blinky lights and all the, like, fun things we get to put out for people to hear. I mean,
I'm not trying to blaspheme by any stretch, so please don't misconstrue my words. But, like, God is the only being that can create something from nothing. And I think the closest thing you have to that is creating music. Because there's literally nothing there.
Right.
There's
that's true.
And it just becomes an idea. Now, that's why I say the closest thing is because, I mean, if we study, like, centuries of music, we're going to find every chord progression known to man being on repeat in some way.
Somebody's done it before, probably.
Right. Like, it still falls under, Solomon's, like, everything under the sun has already been done vibe. But it's still one of those things where it's like, there's nothing here except an idea. And now I'm going to watch it blossom.
And I appreciate you being vulnerable to come in and share it. You didn't have to. You could have kept that in your book and not even told me about it.
Well, I felt very, when you asked, I had already felt the stirring, like, as soon as you, like, said, hey, have you been working on anything? I was like, as a matter of fact, yeah, I have. And I kind of felt a calling to it. I don't know what this song is going to do for, people. I don't know if it's going to be heard by 5 people or 5 million people. I have no idea.
That's right.
But even just the opportunity to get that creativity out, have this conversation with you, and if one person heard it and it was like, man, I got a siren, and that's like that, I think that's huge. And I think it's the
same thing Jesus does for the one, right? Yeah. He leaves, it doesn't matter, like, let's just, in trying to make it all analogy, if we spent thousands of dollars on this and one person heard it and one person got changed from making a wrong decision into a right decision, like, some things you can't put prices on in life. Music does that sometimes.
Absolutely.
It really does.
It is a universal language.
It really is, yeah.
So.
And it hits you somewhere that you just, not many other things can.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I want to thank you and your bride and my bride and family as well. And to anybody who hears the song and You know, whether you just think, man, that's a dope beat, which it's a dope beat. You know, Dawn Patrol, that's a Dawn Patrol dope beat. You know, or if you hear the true pain that I was feeling in my voice and hear the words and you feel the depth of it, you know, no matter what, I appreciate you for listening. So
Totally.
thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you.
No problem. I'm super excited to do more of this.
Absolutely.
And it's time for us to go watch his video. But I want to say, just to kind of piggyback off what you said, thank you so much for watching. Whoever you are watching this video, first of all, if you made it to the end, God bless you. Go eat some food or something. It's been a long time coming. But number two, Jesus loves you. I've totally, in my life, been on both sides of the fence. I've been, you know, in the dark and had so much fun with temptation, but always came up empty. And when I gave my life to Jesus, I met my beautiful wife. I got to find restoration and hope in a very empty soul it was like an empty house. It really was. And now my house is filled with laughter and, you know, a family and just life. And that's what God does. And it's just like, you know, I digress because I could go down the God, Holy Spirit, Jesus rabbit trail. If you haven't ever tried it, give it a try. 100%. That's like the first step. If you've never heard about Jesus or you're like interested in him, or maybe you tried him, you know, when you were younger, you tried the whole Christian thing and just didn't work out. He's super fresh every single day and wants to pursue a relationship with you. And all it takes is giving him a little crack in that door and just saying, look, if you're there, come on in. Guaranteed he's going to come and it's going to change your life for the better. And you will physically see things happen in your life. People will call you. You'll have divine appointments. You'll see miracles. You'll see, you know, all these beautiful things. Your prayers get answered. I mean, it simply is amazing. And he's real. Don't let anybody tell you he's not. Don't let him try to win you with science or, you know, apologetics, because the simple faith can overcome that anytime. A lot of times I tell people my biggest faith is through the personal experiences I had. I can't shake those. I can mathematically understand something, but these, you know, healings that I've seen or these like miracles, like that, there's another level. So, yeah, we love you guys so much, and thank you so much for the song. It's been really awesome.
I appreciate it. Hey, much love, and aloha.
Aloha.